Hello again, welcome to the second video in this series. I did receive some questions from the first video, which was great. I thought I'd spend a little time covering those off. First, some technical questions on my system. As you can see, I'm running Windows 7 on an HP Mini, 32 bits, 1 gig of RAM, 1.67 gigahertz. We deliberately chose a smaller machine in order to make optimized coding decisions. There are a lot of tools out there at the moment that just throw more RAM at a given problem. I didn't want to be one of those. Another question, can Cyril run on virtual machines? Yes, it can. We've kept to the standard library as much as possible and haven't done any undocumented function calls. This was all intended to make Cyril as portable as possible. Cyril is command line, and so it is schedulable, written in C++ and uses the parallel C library. So each CPU core essentially works on a separate file. The reason for this was to maximize throughput. Cyril is written around the syntax of the Teradata database, although there is no reason why it can't be expanded to include other database formats. Another question, in a business sense, what would I use Cyril for? Well, because it generates a data model and not a standard report, you can actually use it for whatever you like. You can run highly aggregated reports for managerial resource planning type work, and coders can drill down to an individual field level. Because the analysis is batch, it is consistent and reports flow seamlessly into each other. That's been a really nice feature of Cyril. I also received some queries that the first video did not adequately explain what Cyril actually did, which is sort of okay because it was intended as a high-level introduction. But to make it clearer, I thought we could walk through a couple of real-time scenarios. Say, for example, a recent restructure has put you in charge of a department that you know little about, and it's your job to learn as much as you can, as quickly as you can. You could find a resource to generate a high-level report on what all the different processes do in your new area, or you could run a batch utility like Cyril on the top and have the information at your fingertips to make whatever report you like. So I'll just run Cyril so that you can see it. Begin by purging anything from a previous run and just run it again now. So Cyril is a multi-pass tool. Each pass generates text files because they're the fastest, and also because if there are any stability issues encountered, you have the ability to isolate and run continued processing, because they are in fact all just text files. You can pretty much manipulate them however you see fit. Here we see that Cyril has identified which tables and columns are being used in the scripts, and this is actually the longest part of the process, the part where Cyril traces the scripts command by command. It keeps tracks of drops, creates inserts, updates, alters. It basically does precisely what the Teradata database would do without actually interrogating the database itself. So once Cyril has completed this part of the processing, it then brings all of the outputs together and generates a series of consolidated files, and this is the file suite from which you can actually generate an overarching view of the entire department. Up until then it had been handling each file individually. So, Cyril's run. What did you get out of it? An initial high-level report might look something like this. It shows the complexity of each individual script. Now, the complexity index has been based on the cyclomatic complexity algorithm developed in 1976 by Thomas McCabe. It starts to build a picture of all the processes under your control, and it's intended to help you in prioritizing and resource allocation. Another high-level report which Cyril will help you to generate is a consolidated list of which databases are referenced within your department. Here it's been presented as a count of database references partitioned by script. But because Cyril generates an object model and not a standard report, you can customize this output in whatever way you like. You can break it by department, by username, present it by latitude versus longitude, whatever is necessary to answer the specific business question. Now we move to the great love of my life, which is impact analysis. A database change will often be notified to you by either an email or a phone call. And the first challenge is to determine which, if any, processes are impacted. This may be done by sending scattergun emails, searching scripts individually and access logs. This is manual, time-consuming, and prone to errors. There's no guarantee of success, and you can guarantee that each time it's done differently. Cyril, by contrast, gives you a quick consolidated list of where the impacts will be. Say, for example, a particular code, it might be a date or a feature code or whatever, is changing. Without thinking too much, I now know that that literal has been referenced in 3 scripts. Twice it's returned as part of a select, and once you can see it's being used within a join. Alternatively, you can look at a database object itself. We've been notified that this particular database object is going to be made obsolete, and you need to point to a new source. And without thinking too much and without disturbing any day-to-day activities from any of your people, we now know that that object is referenced in 2 scripts, once again twice returned as a select and twice used as a join. Most people would be happy to stop there. Cyril will actually permit you to dig even deeper. We can now look and identify a little bit more information about the individual scripts. So once again, script 5 and script 7 are impacted. We now know that it is referenced in 2 statements in each script, They're all insert statements. If you open the script in SQL Assistant, you will even be able to navigate to the precise line where this issue will be found. And there is even also a statement level complexity index, the intention of which is to give you a picture of how long it might take an analyst to perform the remediation. Once again, most people would be quite happy to stop here. We now have a really good technical picture of the change impact. The next step, as business leaders, you may be asked, is what is the business impact of this change? Business impacts usually come in the form of a dollar value and can be difficult to quantify. Cyril makes this easy by overlaying additional information from other sources. We've put in the script complexity, and you can populate things like the refresh schedule, daily, weekly, monthly, the script category. Is it a campaign, a report, or is it required by the government? And here the most important part to assist you is the estimated business value of this process. By now putting that information in, we have created an impact dollar value of $50,300 and potential court appearances if this change is not addressed. Once again, a lot of people would be happy to stop at this point. One of the few standard reports that Cyril can generate for you is an itemized list of database objects, intra-database access, and access requirements. Cyril even goes to the trouble of telling you precisely which fields in which database are being used. The intention of this report is to allow you to specifically and quickly set up a test environment. If the test environment is pushed for space, as they often are, you can direct them to only populate these fields. The others can be nulls or potentially even dropped. And this will make the whole process faster and easier, and you will find you'll get a better relationship with the testing teams. So in summary of those questions, what can Cyril do for you? Well, without thinking, without interrupting any of the day-to-day activities of any of your people, we have generated an overarching view of script complexities in your new department. We have provided a high level of database requirements which can be useful for space forecasting, backup strategies, housekeeping. You have identified which scripts will be impacted by a given change. Additional to that, once the remediation is completed, you can rerun Cyril because it's a batch process, and it should report that the change is removed or mitigated. You've assigned a dollar value to the impact. Cyril has provided you with information to make educated resource and prioritizing decisions, and also provided you with a minimum list of database objects to build a test environment. All this in a centralized standard manner and repeatable manner. So what's next for Cyril? Right now I'm working on the process to actually display a target from source mapping document from a raw script. This was the initial output which actually inspired me to build Cyril, and it has proven to be the most elusive. But I'm still working on it, and will create, and the next video will probably be when I'm happy with its outcome. Once again, thank you for your time. If you feel like leaving a comment, please do so, and I will be pleased to hear from you. Thanks.